Hey everybody, it's Brad.
I'm Krista.
From the Big Family Homestead, and in this video we're doing something kind of different. We're a part of, like, I guess, like a chain video thing.
Yeah, it's really kind of cool.
Not like a chain letter, because we're not into the whole fraud and the whatnot.
No.
But it's like a chain video letter, and this was set up by the Go for Green Living channel, and what's happened is there's a bunch of homesteading, prepping, self-reliant channels that are asked a question, and then they answer questions, and then it keeps going. So one channel asks another, and so on and so forth, and yada yada, and the yippee skippy and the whatnot. Right? So our questions, we're going to answer here in a second. Our questions came from Go for Green Living, but before I do answer those questions, my questions are going to Doug and Stacey off-grid.
Yeah.
And so here's the questions that I've come up with basically for you. 2 questions. Number 1, what is the single biggest thing that gratifies you about your life now as opposed to the city slicker life you had before? Now, I use the air quote city slicker life because that's on their actual YouTube page. It's not an insult or anything. That's a term they use. So basically, what is the single biggest thing that gratifies you about your life now opposed to the city slicker life before? And number 2, what do you think is the single biggest threat to society as we know it, and why? So those are for Doug and Stacey off-grid. And going back, now Mama, here, you get the channel questions from Daniel. What's the first one we got there?
What thing in your life happened to make you start prepping or homesteading? Well... You
want to go to start with this?
Yeah,
I don't think it was not one thing.
No, it's never been one thing. Throughout our life, Brad and I have been married 23 years, and throughout our marriage, God has led us into our next path. By teaching Brad or I what we need to do next. When we were, we've always had a large trust in God.
You can use the word. It's called faith. It's okay.
We have had a large faith in God that He is going to provide for our every need. From when he was in a band that we prayed for in faith for toilet paper.
Yeah,
okay?
When you're in a band, there's a term.
Feast or famine.
Feast or famine. You're either making money or you're starving to death. And we've learned how to have much, like Paul, and how to have nothing.
Right.
And be content.
Right. So God has always taught us, and mostly Brad, okay, I want you to learn this right now. After the band was done, he introduced, God introduced a man to us, said, I really need you to do video. And I want to teach you how to do this. And then another man comes in our lives and says, hey, I need this kind of guy. And it was for video. Video
and audio production.
Right. And having the background of music and then the video production led us
to the next thing.
Led us to the next thing. And then being in this last journey, God said, hey, you know, I think you really need to look into bees.
Well, and that brings us to this point.
Right.
One thing led to the next, to the next, to the next, and all of a sudden we've built on this skill set, and now I'm working at a church in Cincinnati at this point that absolutely had the weirdest job description ever. They needed a rock star who would understand praise and worship, be sensitive to the traditional worship folks and not just be all dorky about it.
Right.
Who would also have a lot of technical ability to edit video and production and web design and media and all that kind of stuff. And so I just happened to fit the bill. It was once again one of those God moments, but we were literally living in the parsonage at this church. And
what the stones throw away from the building.
Literally. No, you could hit it with a rock easy. But I think it was one day that we had been listening to a lot of the I don't know what you could call them, conspiracy radio type people.
Yeah, and watching things that are happening in the news and getting a little frightened.
Well, yeah, and looking past what the mainstream news is telling you. I mean, because they only skim the surface and they only sell you what it is they want to sell you.
Right.
And then when you start kind of peeling those layers back and you see what's really going on in the world and you talk to people and then you get alternative news and you start seeing, oh my gosh, this train is not coming off the rails, it's off the rails.
Right. It's coming crashing into society.
And it's going to run us over any second.
Right.
And when you realize that, it starts out as a panic moment. You start out completely fear-based, like, what if I can't? What if I can't? How am I going to feed my family? Da-da-da-da-da-da. And so we did like everybody else does, and you run out and you buy all your beans and you buy all your rice and you get your buckets.
Right.
And you start preparing. And not necessarily for any one thing, just what if all of a sudden this big insurance policy is looming over our heads?
Right.
What if?
Right.
And then slowly, God started working on us and was like, okay, calm down. Good first start.
Right.
Way to go, hustler. Now, I want to talk to you about gardening. And then Mama got interested in gardening, and
well, we all did.
well, we all did.
Yeah, it was a family thing. It wasn't just me. It was just, hey, let's plant some tomato plants.
And it got cool, and it was fun. And
I
then
remember our first garden.
it was hideous.
It was horrible. It was this 4 by 10 square foot garden, and I planted
idea what
what
we're
I
doing.
thought were tomato seeds. And in Florida, I didn't know any better, and you don't plant tomatoes from seeds. Well, yes, but you start them inside, and
Yeah, we didn't know what we were doing.
I didn't even know what a tomato seed looked like, and so I'm putting these seeds in the garden. Well, tomatoes didn't come up. Cucumbers came up.
Lots of cucumbers.
They came out of the tomato package.
So we were accidentally successful.
It was really dumb. And
So we get into the gardening thing, and then one day, and this is really funny because anybody that knows me from back in the day, all Brad is into is computers,
music,
video production, being on stage, ministry, rock and roll.
Right.
That's it. And one day God put in my head, hey, you should really check into honeybees. And I kind of was like,
what?
honestly, I was like, what the? But then I started studying about them, started doing a little YouTube, and it was like, holy smokes, these are the coolest creation ever.
And at that point, I'm deathly afraid of bees.
Oh, she wouldn't go, no way.
And I'm like, oh, you can just have fun with that. I'm staying away from it. Well,
So-
now I have no problem getting
Yeah.
into a hive.
So I took a class actually at the Creation Museum down there in Kentucky, and lo and behold, one thing leads to the next, and then we end up with, chickens and goats, and now we've got rabbits and a cow, and the goal is not only to be completely self-sufficient as we can, and we're only on 1 acre, guys.
Yeah.
That's a crazy thing too. There's a lie that's flying around out there in the mainstream media that the world cannot feed itself. Let me tell you what. On this 1 acre, if I had access to the front yard, which I'm not allowed to, we've got some fruit trees up there.
Yeah, we have 20-some fruit trees up front.
So we're doing what we can, but our septic is a nightmare, and you can talk to me about that later. But if I had access to the whole yard, I guarantee you that on this 1 acre, I could probably feed 20, 25 people without any issue at all.
Yeah.
And so when you think about the size of Texas, and that Texas has enough acreage, just Texas, that every person, every man, woman, and child on the earth could have over a half acre, almost an acre.
Yeah.
And to say there's a problem with food production, there's ways that we do it.
We're not overpopulated.
Look into Joel Salatin. Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, the long story short was we started out as preppers, but then it became a progression into homesteading. And what I found was that it started out as fear, and now it just becomes skill, ability, trust, more than anything, trust. Because if you don't have a good season, it don't matter how good of a gardener you are, you're not going to get your harvest.
Right.
It's trust. For us, it's trust in God. And for you, I don't know, but I would get busy if I were you. Change that from fear to ability and trust. So that's probably pretty good on the first one.
Oh, yeah.
All right, second question. What is, oh, here we got to unlock the intelligent device.
You're right.
There it is.
All right, next question. If you only had 60 seconds to bug out, what would you grab?
That's an interesting question because, well, especially because of what we just explained, we don't view ourselves as preppers really anymore. No. We have all our stuff.
Right.
But
we are prepared.
We are prepared. We've got our
right.
We've got all the stuff. You go down the laundry list, we've got all the stuff. Everybody in the house knows how to use a weapon. Everybody knows how to do this, and that, and yada yada yippee skippy. The reality for us though is that we are financially in a very challenging situation. We don't have a bug out location.
No.
We don't have a retreat. We don't have some place to go. And so once again, you know, all of those things that you prepare for, I mean, are you really going to schlep, you know, 1,000 pounds of rice and beans and supplies with you? I mean, does that just always stay in your car? I mean, I guess it could.
It could, but why? I mean, that's...
And then even still, think about this, guys. All it takes is somebody who's just a little bit hungrier and a little bit more desperate than you are to take them from you.
Yeah.
So while we would like to have a place, a retreat, we don't have one.
No.
And so for us, it's this is the Last Stand Saloon.
Right.
I mean, and someday we want to have a place to go to, but that's just not a reality right now.
Right. And the thing that we would grab would be our children.
Yeah.
And draw them in closer to...
60 seconds, make sure we get all the kids. I mean, I would probably make sure that there are some, we have some preparedness items in, but, you know, nobody really wants to talk about all those specifics because everybody's all, ooh, what about your specifics? What about my specifics? Bottom line is we would be able to feed, clothe, and protect ourselves if we had to leave. And I recommend that you guys all do that as well. So anyway... Check out the next channel. Check out the channels before. Down in the links below, I've put the whole list of everybody's channels and in the order that they're in. And up next is Doug and Stacey Off Grid. And so they have the questions from us, and they'll answer those tomorrow. And, well, we'll move on.
Yep.
So there you have it, guys. I'm Brad.
I'm Christa.
And you're not.
You have an amazing day.
Bye.